Humans have evolved to respond to stimuli in many different ways, and these hold evolutionary advantages. One of the most simple forms of learning is called habituation. Habituation is defined as a decrease in the strength or occurrence of a behavior after repeated exposures to the stimulus that produces that behavior. Habituation is not a quick form of learning, as it happens over time after repeated exposures to a specific stimuli.
Many studies focus on analyzing the factors that affect habituational learning. To begin with, experimenters analyze habituation to stimuli that easily elicit a response. The frequency of exposure is commonly analyzed to see its effect on how quickly the learning occurs and how long the learning persists. An experiment that has illustrated habituation is Epstein et al.'s experiment on the effects of mass and space exposure of stimuli on habituation. The experimental group was fed on a mass trial, meaning they were fed macaroni and cheese once a day for 5 weeks. The control group was fed macaroni and cheese on a space trial, meaning they were fed macaroni and cheese once a week for 5 weeks. From this study and many others, it suggested that mass exposure to stimuli may lead to quicker habituation, but that for long-term learning, space exposure to the stimuli is more effective.
I will be conducting a study replicating the design utilized in Epstein et al.'s experiment to study the relationship between habituation and the Freshmen 15. It is noted that many young adults venture off to college and put on some weight by eating large quantities of their favorite foods. We are aiming to see if the liking of ramen noodles can be habituated when participants are fed ramen on massed and spaced trials. Our first participant will be fed ramen on a massed trial where they receive ramen every day for 5 weeks. Our second participant will be fed ramen on a spaced trial where they receive ramen once a week for 5 weeks.
Man, I love ramen.
Ramen's the best.
Ramen's still okay.
Ramen is still good.
Man, I kind of wish I had something else to eat other than ramen.
Ramen is so good. I'm not getting sick of this at all.
Ugh, ramen isn't so good anymore.
Still appetizing.
Ramen sucks.
This stuff never gets old.
As one can see by our study, the mass exposure trial exhibited much faster habituation than did the spaced trials.
Due to being constantly fed ramen, participant 1 habituated to the food and began avoiding the ramen. This phenomenon was not seen in participant 2's eating habit at the end of the 5 weeks. From the data collected in the study, we can assume that if you want to avoid the freshman 15, it would be helpful for students to consume the same fattening foods repeatedly so the food will become habituated to. This is a great scientific discovery for every struggling college student.